Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is a webinar about how to create smart buildings with Bluetooth. And we're very excited to have Chuck Sabin with us today. Chuck is a senior director at the Bluetooth SIG. And we've also got Paul Dupont from Pointr. The two of them will make presentations and then discuss the future of location services. So is it Bluetooth? Is it 5G? Which indoor positioning technologies are available today, and how do they enable smart buildings with location services? So first, Chuck will do a 5 to 10 minute presentation on the future of Bluetooth technology, followed by Paul, who will present what we do at Pointr and how we enable really exciting use cases. We will then follow with a discussion and a Q&A session. So you will have the option to ask questions to our two panelists. So take this opportunity. You can ask the questions already right now, and we'll answer them as we go during the discussion. So Chuck, if you'd like to share your screen.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the introduction. My name's Chuck Sabin. I'm the senior, as I mentioned, I was senior director for market development at the Bluetooth SIG. What that really means is that I spent a lot of my time thinking about and looking at the future for Bluetooth technology. And so as part of supporting this webinar, I'm probably going to focus more on the forecasts and the opportunities that we see and that are being represented for Bluetooth technology more than anything else at this point in time. But and Paul will go into a lot more detail behind solutions that Pointr supports using Bluetooth technology. So I wanted to give that as a sort of an opening to what I was going to talk about today. Just so you know, first, hopefully you're familiar with the Bluetooth Special Interest Group. We are the organization at the heart of the Bluetooth technology, servicing industry-leading companies like Pointr around the globe in three critical areas. We support the specification process for the development of new features that go into the specification. We support the development and delivery of the test tools and the qualification program to help drive interoperability amongst devices using the Bluetooth technology. And we also manage the promotion of the Bluetooth brand to help open new market opportunities for member companies that are a part of the organization. Now, the Bluetooth SIG is based in Kirkland, Washington, just outside of Seattle, Washington in the US. And I just want to make sure I'm clear that the Bluetooth SIG itself, the special interest group itself, does not build the devices. We actually operate as a not-for-profit trade association with over 36,000 member companies that are working to help advance the Bluetooth technology in a variety of markets and solutions. Now, when we talk about 36,000 member companies, what's apparent is how the efforts of that community, of the Bluetooth community and those members, directly impacts the overall commercial success and opportunity for Bluetooth technology. Now, annual shipments of Bluetooth products will continue to grow at an incredible rate and has been growing at an incredible rate through the years. Even after a dip in 2020, which was due to the impact of COVID-19 that we all felt in terms of disruptions in distribution and consumer spending, et cetera. And COVID-19 it had this impact on a variety of markets and industries. But with 4.5 billion Bluetooth-enabled shipments expected this year alone, Bluetooth is continuing its strong growth for the future. And for the first time in our forecast for the Bluetooth devices shipping each and every year, will exceed 6 billion devices per year by the year 2025. So how does Bluetooth achieve this type of growth? Well, Bluetooth achieves this success by being what we considered a solutions-oriented technology. Now, Bluetooth is driving 4 waves of solution innovation in the market. Audio streaming, which probably most people know of the best, data transfer, location services, and device networks. And while audio streaming may be our largest solution area, location services is actually one of our fastest growing solution areas. And each of these solution areas has a unique value for developers, making Bluetooth what we consider and what we've seen in the market, the #1 embedded technology for IoT devices. And while today we'll be focusing on the location services, Each of these solution areas and the vertical markets that they support are discussed in more detail in a Bluetooth market update that we put out annually. So I encourage you to look at that. If you're interested in some of the other solution areas for Bluetooth, download the Bluetooth market update from Bluetooth.com, and you can get more information and more detail about each one of these solution areas. But today, we're going to talk about Bluetooth location services, the solution area, and its impact that it's having on the market. So just a quick bit of data on Bluetooth location services. As I mentioned, location services is one of the fastest growing solution areas for Bluetooth. Between now and 2025, Bluetooth location services is forecast to experience a 32% compound annual growth rate, headed towards almost 500 million related devices shipping each and every year by 2025. And as far as implementations are concerned, deployments, implementations of Bluetooth location services solutions for a variety of use cases will double between now and 2025. There'll be over 500,000 Bluetooth location services implementations in operation by 2025. And it's also projected that there will be about 1.8 billion handsets, meaning mobile phones and other handheld devices, actively engaged in Bluetooth location services by 2024. And so this represents a very significant installed base of devices and users that are ready to use these solutions as they come available and are in the market. So let's talk just quickly a little bit about use cases. And Paul, I know you will go into this in a bit more detail from a Pointr perspective. So I'll try to make this quick to a degree. Bluetooth location services, as we think about it from an organization perspective, is divided into unique solution categories representing use cases like item finding, point of interest sharing, health and safety applications, asset tracking, and indoor positioning. And for Bluetooth technology implementations, these solution categories and use cases can generally be divided into two types of solutions that are available in the market. There's proximity solutions, which is the ability to determine the location of two devices relative to each other. And then there are positioning systems, which is the ability to determine the physical location of devices from within a system. So how is this translating to sector and use case momentum for Bluetooth? Well, as we look at those types of solution opportunities, 80% of current implementations contain some form of indoor navigation. So that's a very large part of the implementations that are in the market today. And if you look at buildings and manufacturing, indoor navigation and asset tracking have been the leading use cases for those types of applications in smart buildings and manufacturing, which is kind of logical for the way that location services are being used inside those environments. And if you think about the tags, the actual tracking tags, 60% of those Bluetooth tags that are shipping today are supporting logistics or tracking inventory, assets, shipping, etc. And as far as indoor and in-building applications, retail is also one that is still leading the pack with 66% of implementations supporting some type of a retail experience, like stores, malls, convenience stores, and probably the most notable is supermarkets and supermarket tracking applications. But in addition to this, because of what's happening as far as COVID is concerned and the concerns over health and safety applications, what we're experiencing now is location services is forecast to experience over a 5x growth in healthcare related implementations. And I want to lean into that one just a little bit more for just a minute, because there's so much emphasis going on during this pandemic around these types of applications. And I know Pointr has a specific set of offerings for safe return solutions as well, utilizing Bluetooth. And if you look at what types of implementations are being discussed and or used within the health and safety application, for Bluetooth location services, it relates to first public exposure notification. Now, this one's garnered a lot of attention as governments and localities, look for ways to help mitigate exposure risk using the mobile phone, using proximity to others as a way of identifying whether or not you have an exposure risk, and then also supporting and helping contact tracing type applications. The second area is around safe return solutions. And these are things that are important to businesses, schools, factories, retail, and other public spaces that ultimately are looking to get back to some type of normal. And so they're looking at areas like occupancy management to keep step with local policy and regulation. We have areas where it's 25% of capacity or 50% of capacity, and they're looking at technology to help manage those capacity regulations, looking at workflow optimization to mitigate exposure and tracking of where people are going, as well as hygiene and sanitation management to help keep environments COVID-free and optimize the overall efficiency of going into an environment. And then the third area is around safe treatment solutions. This really goes to the heart of being a part of the hospital or a clinical care type application. And this is where it includes things like resource and asset tracking and use management, as well as safe facility operation and management of operations and facilities, among other reasons, to help mitigate exposure, safe routing, and just ultimately trying to provide a safer environment within the health and safety market. So keeping this in mind, where are we headed with the technology? So I want to spend a little bit on just kind of where we're headed with the technology from a roadmap perspective. So these solutions that I just talked about have been developed using some key opportunities that I mentioned before. So for proximity, developers are using RSSI as part of the technology, and this highlights many of the early implementations using RSSI. You saw this in tags and trackers and for the development of meter level RTLS and indoor positioning solutions. Now later, with the core specification 5.1 from Bluetooth, we introduced what we consider direction finding. This introduced angle of arrival, or AOA, and/or angle of departure, AOD, implementations. And this ultimately enhanced item finding solutions with directional information, and is ultimately driving positioning solutions down to the centimeter level of accuracy. So again, where are we headed with the technology for the future? Now, the great thing about what we're doing and what the community does with Bluetooth technology is ultimately it doesn't sit still. It literally, the specification literally never sleeps. And so while audio streaming with Bluetooth low energy audio may be getting all of the press, if you've been managing and monitoring some of the recent press around Bluetooth technology, Bluetooth location services has steadily been adding new capabilities, including, as I mentioned before, direction finding back in 2019. And we have plans to continue to expand the functionality for location services in the near future. What we have today is that members at the Bluetooth SIG are currently working on capabilities to add distance measurement capabilities to the location services portfolio for Bluetooth. So if you go back and think about that diagram that I showed before, so in the near future, not only can you determine if an object is near you with RSSI, and it's that way with direction finding, now you'll be able to determine if it's that far away with distance measurement. So it's near me, it's over there, and it's this far away. Now, not every solution, as we recognize, and as all of the member companies and those that are implementing Bluetooth technology recognize, not every solution needs centimeter accuracy and the specific accurate ranging that will come from distance measurement. But Bluetooth as a solution technology and a positioning radio provides the flexibility for developers and implementers, unlike any other radio, and no matter what the use case, to use the technology to your advantage, specifically for what type of use case you're looking to deploy. So depending on cost, and complexity, you may choose to implement some or all of these features depending on the needs of your implementation. Now, because distance measurement is, as a specification, is not yet adopted, it's not possible for me yet to share the specific implementation details that are going into the specification. But if you'd like more detail around what's happening with distance measurement, I encourage you to talk to your suppliers, or you can join the Bluetooth working groups and the Bluetooth special interest group, and you can participate in the specification development, and that'll give you all of the indications and all the information that you need about this part of the specification. So that's kind of the future and the future direction for where the technology is headed in terms of its capabilities and its flexibility. So to close out my portion, I just wanted to summarize a few things here. So location services, again, is one of the fastest growing solution areas for Bluetooth. If you look at Bluetooth implementations over the next 5 years, implementations will be doubling, with over 500,000 implementations and deployments worldwide by 2025. And companies that are using Bluetooth location services are helping pave the road to recovery for this new normal that we were talking about in terms of from this pandemic and overcoming this particular pandemic. And Bluetooth as a positioning radio, it's flexible. It's flexible to deliver multiple use cases and needs for location accuracy depending on your solution. And it's that flexibility that helps you manage the different types of implementations that you may want to have in your environment. So for these and other resources, again, I encourage you to visit Bluetooth.com, visit our resource center for blogs, case studies, articles, and more. And you can get a significant amount of detail and technical information on the location services offering from Bluetooth. Thank you very much, and send it back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Chuck. That was there's a lot of stuff I think that will be relevant from your slides in what I have here today. So very quickly, I'm Paul, so I'm VP of Technical Sales at Pointr, and I want to run you through kind of the latest developments with indoor location, and also run that past what else we're seeing in terms of other technology, with a particular focus on 5G and where we see kind of the comparison between Bluetooth and 5G there as well. So indoor location, we're all very familiar with what's possible when we're outdoors. We're all very familiar with using GPS, with cell tower location, in order to identify where you are on a map, where your food is on its way to your house, or where your car is when you want to get somewhere with Uber. Indoors, however, is a growing requirement to understand how building spaces get used, and this has only increased over the last year or so, as location has been like a key driver in reopening buildings, and identifying the best technology to reopen those buildings, or to understand how people use a building is a constant question that we ask ourselves, and customers ask us as well. And in there, should we be using Bluetooth? Should we be using 5G or Wi-Fi or UWB or any of the other technologies out there to give a great indoor location experience? So really, that's what I want to go into today. Before I do that, very quickly, I want to introduce Pointr. So we're Pointr. We've been around for about 8 years. We're a software company. We create the software that powers indoor location. So we're not a hardware company, nor are we really an app company. We're a technology company that produces great indoor location tech. And we're deployed in over 1,000 venues with around 2 million daily active users of our stuff. I'm here in London in headquarters, but we have our CEO in Boston, and then we have support all around the world along with our partners. And we have customers in a huge range of different sectors and geographies. UC Health in Colorado for healthcare, as well as CBRE in that office space sector, and then retail, aviation, they're all represented when it comes to indoor location. And that's very exciting for us. So what do? Firstly, we create maps based on floor plans, and we do that in an automated, very quick way. So you want to understand where things are in your building, we'll produce that for you. Once we have maps, we can then add a blue dot. So that's your location on top of that map, so you can see where you are. When we have your location and we have the map, we can then do wayfinding. So we can help you get from A to B, or we can help you understand where something is and how to navigate. And that's something we can do both indoors and outdoors. Of course, we also do geofencing, which is a super important requirement for understand. For example, in a hospital, what you would do is create a geofence around the lobby or the car park. So when you arrive at the hospital, that geofence will trigger a notification that would tell you, for example, welcome to the hospital. Click this button here to navigate to your doctor's office. Or it can also be used for analytics, so understanding how densely occupied your building is, how people use the space, how people move around, that sort of thing. And then finally, we also do asset tracking, which is kind of a different architecture to most of these other applications. But again, all of these really are using Bluetooth, and they are in these key sectors. So this is where we're seeing demand right now. And this really goes hand in hand with what Chuck was showing us a moment ago with regards to sectors and the demand for the booming demand essentially for indoor location. So getting back into your office safely, using an airport safely and smoothly, navigating a hospital. I mean, who hasn't been lost in a hospital before? And of course, helping shopping malls and retailers reopen, or improving, click and collect experience. In order to enable all of this, Pointr uses a Bluetooth for most of what we do. So we're very familiar with it. We've been using it for many years, and we use it largely because it's the best solution out there that we've tested for location. And the way that it works for most of our applications is we have Bluetooth beacon technology, which is available in Wi-Fi access points. It's available in lighting systems. It's available as in occupancy sensors. It's or standalone beacons. There's a whole host of different ways that you can get beacons into your building in a scalable way. And those beacons act like lighthouses. They broadcast a signal over and over, which your mobile device picks up, and then the mobile device uses that to create a blue dot. So it shows you your location on a floor plan. So it shows you where you are. And then, with that, we can do all kinds of cool things. That's really the core of the technology. So can we do better than this though? Right. So going forward, can we do better than our existing technology, which typically enables up to about 1 meter accuracy? And with that question in mind, what other technologies are there out there? One which is gaining huge amounts of publicity at the moment is the 5G space. So can we get a better indoor location experience using 5G technology? Well, let's take a look at 5G. So firstly, let's take a look at the evolution and how we got to where we are with 5G. So when we're talking about 5G, really we're talking about that cellular data system. So it started with 2G, 3G, 4G, and it's used primarily for communications. So getting data onto your phone. So 4G, for example, enables reasonably fast download speeds to your mobile device, and kind of almost incidentally as a secondary feature, because 4G needs to know where your device is in order to send the information to your device, it also can act as a way to locate your device, typically to around 50 meters. Now, 5G builds on that. You can see it has much faster connectivity, much faster speeds, and because relatively speaking, compared to 4G, it's a denser topology of so there's more base stations, and the technology is slightly better for locationing. It enables a higher location of around 20 meters. And what we're talking about here is the everyday everyday 5G that you use on your mobile device when you're making phone calls or downloading data. So that's on sort of more recent mobile devices. Now, 5G comes in two categories. This is the sub 6 gigahertz band that we're talking about right now. But then there is also the millimeter wave band, which is a higher frequency. And this is the one that has been generating the news around improved locationing. So let's take a closer look at this 5G. So this millimeter wave 5G is essentially similar in the way that it's deployed to Wi-Fi in a building, right? So the wave, it allows much higher connectivity speeds of over a gigabit a second, which is frankly outrageous. But it does get blocked a little bit by, for example, walls in a building, which means that compared to its lower frequency version, you need to have more what are called cells, like base stations, mini base stations inside a building in order to provide that connectivity. So typically you get these laid out in a similar way to the way that your Wi-Fi access points are laid out through your building. So there's quite a high density of them. And with those cells, or those pico cells, what has been in preliminary tests have shown that using that and angle of arrival methods to detect location of devices, we can get to around a meter with those devices. So this is definitely a technology out there for location. At the moment, there aren't a huge number of devices that operate 5G. However, having said that, that will increase as time goes on and the technology matures. And then the way that the locationing is done is very interesting. So with millimeter wave, it uses, as I mentioned, angle of arrival. That means that the object that you're trying to locate would broadcast its signal to the base station. The base station collects it, and then the data from that base station typically would be passed to a server in order that the server can triangulate from, let's say, three or four different cells in order to provide the location. So what that means is that the location is done in the cloud, not on the device itself. Now, this could create problems around latency. So getting that data back from the cloud might be an issue, or it might cause bottlenecks if you have many different items being calculated in the cloud at the same time. And of course, it means that you need to have an internet connection if you're trying to use your phone for this. Your phone needs to be connected to the internet. So with all that in mind, we probably reckon that 5G is going to be more used for what we call like RTLS style asset tracking style applications rather than mobile based applications. So if we want to compare that to the existing technology that we have right now, we can look at, for example, millimeter wave 5G versus Bluetooth, and of course Bluetooth plus pointer here, where we can see potentially similar levels of accuracy are possible in terms of positioning. However, what we can see is Bluetooth really it takes the lead in pretty much every other category at the moment. So in terms of ubiquitousness, we see that Bluetooth is available in pretty much every device there is, at least for the last 10 years or so. Whereas 5G is only supported by a few devices. It's readily available, which reduces cost, whereas these pico cells are not really available yet, and essentially for locationing purposes, it would be a secondary aspect, right? The primary aspect of getting these cells in would be to improve connectivity speeds rather than location. So if you wanted to use it for location only, it would have carry a higher price tag. It's also, we think, again, because of the way that Bluetooth is everywhere, and the way that it can be, that the positioning can be done on a mobile device rather than in the cloud, its scalability and its latency are both much better, at least for the moment. And then, which is the most future-proof? Well, 5G is still a little bit out there in the future. So I think it would be unfair to say, I mean, it's not really present proof, right? It's still out there in the future. Whereas Bluetooth isn't just future proof when we look at, for example, the latest developments that Chuck is going into in distance calculations and 5.1, but it's also past proof, right? It doesn't matter more or less what device, as long as it has Bluetooth, which most devices are out there. When you look at that chart that Chuck showed, that showed year by year how many different devices with Bluetooth have ship, you can see that this really is an important aspect of making sure that your locationing solution is going to work for everybody, that it's an inclusive solution. So based on that, I mean, we've got a load more information on our website. You're more than welcome to go and download. We've got guides to indoor locationing. If this is interesting or you want to talk more, please get in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And just a reminder to our attendees that they can ask questions in the chat, because we will now go to a Q&A with our two panelists. And the first question, I guess, is for you to because you're experts in location technology. You've seen a lot of use cases in the market. What's the most impressive or the coolest thing you've seen with indoor location services?
I think one of the things that is interesting about this, and Paul sort of hinted on it, which is how location services can be combined with other solutions and be used in basically relatively unique ways. And something that we had actually have heard about is when I was talking about that safety and security health and safety and optimization of workplaces. One of the things that we've heard about is because of this sort of work from home environment that we're sort of living in, that office spaces are actually being underutilized at this point in time. But even when they're underutilized, they're still being utilized, but in specific pockets and specific corners. And so it's made it interesting for, let's say, the cleaning staff, as an example, to know, where were people? Do I have to clean the entire place, or can I focus my attention and be more efficient in terms of what I'm actually doing? And this combination of understanding of location and occupancy and so on is actually being combined with lighting solutions as well. And so as you get an understanding of where people are within a building, you can actually, as an example, hit a scene. And you hit a scene, and only those offices that were occupied for that particular day, or only the spaces of an office that were actually occupied for that day, actually illuminate for the cleaning staff. And they can then go to those specific locations and focus more of their time, attention, and become more efficient in this area, in this world of applications where people aren't working in the office as much, but you still have to maintain the office as if everyone was there. And this is just a way to provide more operational efficiency out of your staff within a building environment. Just as an example, I thought that was kind of an interesting use case for location plus lighting solutions coming together.
So that's exactly my experience as well, right? So you see these applications almost come out of nowhere. They really surprise you. It's like, oh, wait, that's a really neat way to use location. And kind of on top of that, I think my favorite so far. So we were once talking with a cruise ship operator that was looking at delivering drinks to your deck chair next to the pool while you're cruising, which I think was a good one. And then kind of a more practical one, which now it makes a lot of sense to me, is in a smart building, very similar to enabling a cleaner to know where people have been, so that they don't spend their whole time doing all the floor, just doing a little bit, is around maintenance. So it's around if you see that something's broken, the coffee machine is broken or the printer is broken, you can just tap a button in your workplace app, and then the location of that broken asset can be uploaded to the uploaded to the cloud so that your maintenance team can go straight to it.
I think that's actually a great example of how, bless
Excuse
you,
me,
of
apologize.
how
Sorry, I couldn't get
location
to the mute button. I apologize for that.
no worries. Of how location services are being used in a broader context for smart buildings. So, I mean, Chuck, you've mentioned smart lighting as well. Is there any other type of smart buildings? Basically, how can location services enable smart buildings in a wider term?
Well, I guess it's a I guess I'll go back to the concept that I was trying to express before, and one of the things that is a benefit of Bluetooth technology is the versatility of the radio itself, right? So if you think in terms of a smart building or building automation and control and control networks, there's this concept of am I deploying individual solutions, like am I employing an HVAC solution or a lighting control solution, or am I deploying a location services solution? Well, you actually can be deploying a grid essentially of solutions that are utilizing the same radio or the same grid. So as an example here, if you think about connected lighting solutions, well, connected lighting solutions are ultimately are a grid for deploying location services solutions. So you're seeing combinations of hey, I need to deploy an automated connected lighting solution, and I'm going to utilize the fact that I'm deploying wireless and Bluetooth radios in that connected lighting solution to also then deploy beacons that can be used in my location services and indoor positioning solution as well, or whether or not it's asset tracking or indoor positioning or other types of solutions. I can utilize that grid, and you're seeing this combination of solutions, and I almost consider it like unlikely combinations of solutions that are providing sensors and sensor technology for developing and assisting other systems. So it's just a combination set of technology. So if people are looking at just thinking about it in a silo, my suggestion is think broader in terms of what you're trying to do, because there are the technology itself can allow for broader amounts of solutions to be deployed using either the same radio, or using the same deployment that you might use for one solution might assist and deliver a solution, the other solution that you need as well.
Just to chime on top of that, right? So we see it at both sides. So there's the side I think that you're referring to, Chuck, which is around the hardware itself, and you get that hardware is available in all kinds of situations to do all sorts of different things. We have like a whole ecosystem. It's like the industry is almost cementing around a few players that provide different hardware, which can then be used for all kinds of different applications altogether. And then on the other side of that, for customers, there are all kinds of integrations that can be done on the solution side as well. So there's like both sides of that we see. So we also see like third-party integrations, not just on the beacons where we use multiple different types of beacon or multiple different brands of beacon, or ways of installing lighting, Wi-Fi, or whatever it is. But then also on the solution side for a particular customer, like a hospital, that solution then needs to integrate into their into the patient's information about which room they're going to or which doctor they're going to meet, that sort of thing. So it's kind of on both sides. And then when you look at it like that, you kind of see all kinds of stuff happening in smart buildings. In retail, it can be click and collect. In offices, around occupancy management, and then hospitals around getting people to their doctors quickly.
Yeah, thanks guys for the thoughtful replies. We've got a question here that came through, which is, why should I invest in Bluetooth implementations rather than 5G? Paul, is that something you wanted to address? And Chuck, we haven't heard you on 5G as well, so it would be good to hear your thoughts.
Sure.
Why don't you start? Go ahead, Paul.
Sure. So on, I think it depends on what you want to do. So if you're looking at getting a good scalable location solution, then right now Bluetooth is the way to go. If for most scenarios, not all, but most scenarios. On the other hand, if you're looking to improve connectivity, and then location is going to be kind of I mean, I think if you're investing in 5G, you're investing in it for the connectivity. So because it's such an expensive thing to do, to put that infrastructure into place. So I think it would be probably a second, it would be what do I want to say? It would be a separate question. Having said that, if you have 5G in your building already, you've got these base stations and you've got loads of people with devices, then we'd be very excited to talk to you as well.
Yeah, I guess, from my perspective, I think 5G to a degree is promising a lot of things to try to gain more deployments, and I think you said it, Paul, which I think is probably pretty accurate, is that as most of the investment in the 5G infrastructure is going to be around the data, the data transfer capability, right, or just the sheer bandwidth opportunity associated with it. But if you're looking to deploy a cost-effective, flexible, ubiquitous location services solution with a massive ecosystem that is behind it and supporting it, I think that's where Bluetooth and Bluetooth technology is a logical choice for that type of deployment, because the way you would deploy, let's say, a location services solution is going to be using beacons and trying to make sure that your beacon accuracy is correct for going through walls and making sure that that implementation is going to be correct. That's going to be a different deployment than if you just want to do like Wi-Fi access points and do 5G access points. You're going to need a lot more infrastructure to enable that location solution, and so the cost effectiveness of doing that suddenly becomes maybe a little bit unbearable. And so I heard someone say one time about when they were talking about different types of solutions, and this is why I talk about the flexibility that Bluetooth has in terms of do you want meter level or do you want centimeter level accuracy? Do you want, proximity, or do you want direction, or do you want, what are you looking for? And so the technology can scale to that. And someone said, once, everyone wants centimeter level accuracy until they see the cost of getting centimeter level accuracy. And suddenly you start looking at, okay, in what occasions and for what occasions do I need that? I don't need centimeter level accuracy to track the forklift necessarily in my building from an asset management perspective, because I can see it's there, right? I don't need to know that pinpointed piece of accuracy, but I may need it in other occasions. And that's where you can use the technology to flexibly deliver the solutions that you're looking for, and you can do that in a more cost-effective way.
Well, thanks both for replying to this question. I really appreciate that. And we got two more questions, which I think are both for Pointr, actually. So one is, how are the current implementations shared between beacons or gateways? And the second question is, in terms of hardware, what's required for the current technology with Pointr? Which I think, Paul, you might be able to answer both these questions.
Sure. So, beacons versus gateways is a great question, one that I get pretty much on a daily basis. So beacons enable you to look at your mobile device and see where you are. As far as locationing is concerned, right? It has other applications, but as far as locationing is concerned, it allows you to see, like on Google Maps, where you are. A gateway works the other way around. So for a gateway, you are carrying a tag. That tag is essentially a beacon, but we call it a tag. And that tag broadcasts. The data is collected by a gateway, and then that's sent to the cloud for location calculation, and then it's plotted onto a map in a dashboard. So beacons really are for an app-based user experience, whereas gateways are for an operational dashboard-based experience, generally speaking. And then what was the second question, Marianne? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so in terms of hardware, what's required for Pointr?
I mean, for us, we use many different types of beacons depending on the particular way that a customer wants to deploy a solution. So we're not fixed. Of course, we've got our regular partners, and we're always interested in learning about new beacon solutions out there as well.
Okay, and beacons can be integrated in smart lighting as well. Okay, we've got a comment from one of our attendees, which is that Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and 5G will coexist depending on industry, size of business, and industry, which I think is actually a good point here.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Actually, I think that's it. I just saw that myself. I'm glad you actually brought that up. I totally agree. I think that's the beauty of what we've talked about, and I think Bluetooth has never been. We've never said that Bluetooth is the end-all be-all technology for all applications. That's never been the mantra for the Bluetooth organization. In fact, if you look at the promise that is what is considered the Internet of Things, that's actually going to be done through multiple technologies, right? There is no one technology that is going to be able to solve all things for all solutions when it comes to the Internet of Things. And the three things that are actually mentioned here, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and 5G, we actually agree that if you look at the big three technologies that are going to make up 90+% of all of the applications that are associated with the Internet of Things, it is going to be those three. It's going to be Bluetooth, it's going to be Wi-Fi, it's going to be some form of 5G that are going to ultimately deliver on the solutions that are associated with the IoT. So I totally agree with that. And in fact, Bluetooth is actually used in combination with many of these technologies for provisioning, for setup, for waking up other technologies. That is a common use for Bluetooth as well, to help deliver a combination of technologies where Bluetooth is used for things like advertising and power management and wake up and so on. And you then may transfer that over the connection to a Wi-Fi connection or a 5G connection, depending on what you need for a specific application. Then it goes back and there's Bluetooth again, right? So these technologies are going to be used in combination together. There's no doubt about that.
Right, I completely agree. Yeah, in fact, that's what we see as well. I mean, especially with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, they're wonderful hand-in-hand technologies with different sort of use cases.
So talking about use cases, I think our last question, because we're going to run out of time very soon, but we have a question around the solutions and use cases specifically for the healthcare industry, which I think is a sector that Pointr is quite big in, Paul. So if you've got...
Yeah. I mean, there's a fantastic question for a sales guy, right? So thank you for that. So yeah, in healthcare we see, I think, two big ones, and then lots of smaller ones around that. So the two big ones I can go into now. So number one is wayfinding in a hospital and being able to give that patient experience from the door at home right through to the doctor's office and then back to their car and then back home again. So getting that calendar reminder saying your appointment is in 30 minutes, let's get you there. You drive to the car park, you arrive at the car park, stores your car's location. It gets you to the best car park there is in that hospital, because these things are huge, right? They've got multiple car parks on. So gets you to the best car park for your particular appointment. Then car park to the lobby, gets you to the lobby, make sure that you go to the right clinic or the right desk within the hospital. Pops up a notification, potentially even reducing the amount of contact you need to have with a person in the hospital, saying, we noticed you're here, click here to automatically check in. then up to the doctor's office with accessibility-based wayfinding options. So do you need to take the elevator, or are the stairs okay, that sort of thing. And then back home again. So that's a real biggie, and we're seeing a lot of demand coming out for that. Then the other is around asset tracking. So it's, to my point earlier, putting in gateways into the ceiling and then attaching a tag to attaching a tag to an asset, for example, a hospital bed. And we're seeing, not just in the US, but all over the world, hospitals need to be able to find those assets quickly, because they're all over the place, right? Like, somebody pushes a bed into the wrong part of the hospital, or a wheelchair to the wrong part of the hospital. And then getting all that stuff back together is an expensive process. And I guess finally, one last one, I know I said two, but is around sort of occupancy analytics. So how do people use a hospital? Are the the waiting rooms full? Are the corridors full? Where do we see people? Are people using only one corridor where other corridors should also be used? That sort of thing. So taking that location data and then putting it onto a map to improve your operations.
Great, thanks Paul for replying. So yeah, wayfinding, analytics, and asset tracking seems to be the three main use cases. All right, let's wrap up. Paul, Chuck, thank you so much for your time on this. Paul, let's say I'm a large hospital or a large retailer, and I'm interested to implement location services in my venue. What should I do next if I want to talk to Pointr?
Sure. So either reach out to me directly. Here we go. You've got my contact details, or just go to the website and get in touch on the website at pointr.tech.
And you can contact Chuck as well if you've got any comments or questions on the future of Bluetooth, I guess.
Absolutely. And I encourage you to go to, if you're looking for use cases, case studies, research information. My team also manages a number of resources for market research as well. Go to Bluetooth.com. We have a resources section, and you can see a litany of information that's available to you to review and read and look at.
Well, thank you both very much. And this webinar has been recorded, which means it will be available on demand. And unfortunately, we were not able to reply to all questions, which means we'll get back to you in written after the webinar to answer your questions. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chuck.
Bye-bye.